Hi, my name is Kainoa, and today I'm interviewing Bonnie Souza. And today what we are going to talk about is her experience through the Pearl Harbor bombing. What is your full name?
My name is Kainoa Souza.
How old were you at the time of Pearl Harbor?
I was 19 years old.
How old are you now?
I am 92 and a half years old.
What do you recall from Pearl Harbor?
It was scary.
Tell me how it started.
Well, we got up in the morning, heard bombing going on. Everybody ran outside to look, and that's when the planes were going over and strafing the Naval Air Base.
Where were you at the time of Pearl Harbor?
At home in Kainoa. We were directly across from the Kainoa Naval Air Station base.
After the bombing, what happened to your family?
Well, we were all scared. We were all shocked, I guess you might say, but we continued to go on, even though we were restricted a lot. You couldn't be out on the streets. No cars were allowed to be on the roads. And they were moving the military to the different places on Oahu.
How did you feel that day?
Like I said, we were all in shock more than anything else, and scared because we didn't know what was happening. No one ever went to sleep that night. Everyone stayed in the house as a group. The families gathered and stayed together. No electricity, no lights, because they didn't know whether they were coming back or whether they were still in the area. My father was called back to work because he worked for the Marine base down here, Marine base now. He was in charge of the transportation department. So they called back all the workers, but a lot of them lost their lives going back to work.
What did your husband recall from that day?
Arnold was at work that morning because the civilians were on duty. We were about a week before Pearl Harbor. The civilian workers were asked to come back to work because they were expecting something, or they thought something was going to happen. So he was on one of the cranes right across from the Arizona ship in the harbor. And they had heard the planes, saw the planes going around, and then they all said, "Oh, what's your maneuvers?" And my husband told me, he told them, "That's not maneuvers because that's not our planes. Those are the Rising Sun planes, those are Japan planes." And that's when he saw some of the ships go over the Arizona, and I think the Wyoming was right next to it.
Did you have to hide?
No, we didn't, but the families all gathered together, and they would not go out. They just tried to stay together as families so they would know where each other were. So that's what we did. We always stayed together. My grandfather, when the plane came over us, he shooed us all in the house and said, "Go, go, get out of don't stay out here, go in the house." So.
At the time, how did the war affect your family?
Well, actually, nobody left the house because we all stayed there. And then like I said, the people who worked on the base were called back to go to work. And a lot of them were killed on the way back to work because the planes were strafing the cars that were going to the base. Because there is a waterway in between the island and the base that they had to go across, and the planes were being strafed there. One whole family lost their men going back to work.
Later that day, what was it like?
So it was a day that it was just quiet. you know how when you don't hear electricity going or TVs, well, in those days we didn't have that many of them anyway. And it was that kind of a day. We didn't know what to expect. No one knew what to expect.
At the time, did your family have to make any adjustments?
Not really, because we all just did what we were told to do. And I know after my dad went back to work, we didn't hear from him, so we didn't know whether he was still alive or not. But in those days, we had the crank phones, you know, the one that you dial, 1 bell, 2 bell, that type of phone. So we also had an operator in Kainoa. And she would call all the houses that she had get in her area and tell them whether the families were all right. So that was our only way of communicating with him for a few days.
How did you feel that day?
Scared. I was scared. I could say I was scared, and I feel like I might have not blanked out, but forgot some of my things that I should have remembered from prior. School was out. They didn't have school, but I wasn't going to school then. I think I graduated in 1940 at Roosevelt, so this was the year after I had graduated. So I was looking for a job or trying to figure out whether I wanted to go back to school because I wanted to be a teacher, but I never got there. But anyway, but it quieted down. Everybody's kind of just got stymied. You didn't know what you were going to do. You were just waiting for the next drop, something to happen.
Yeah. Did you work after the war?
I did go to work after that in 1942. I went to work at Bellows Field when the Bellows Field opened up with the P-40 squadron down there. We worked with the P-40 squadron but they were young kids, and we always used to say they're flying by the seat of their pants because they'd end up in the brush half the time with their landings. But they got better.
Do you still have anything from that day today?
Well, we have one of the papers, the front page of, I think one, I don't know, was the day after or not. I didn't keep, but my husband would have been able to tell you so much more, but he's not here to do it, so.
How did the war affect your life?
I just never want to see another day like that. Yeah. And I hope no one has to.
Thank you for coming to the interview today, Bonnie. And I hope whoever is seeing the interview right now is seeing that Pearl Harbor was a bad time, and through the 1940s and so forth was a hard time for a lot of people. And I hope that none of us have to go through that timing and sadly time like Bonnie had to. Thank you so much for listening. Aloha.